Say, man, you see my crab cakes? Till I'm all alone. If you see my crab cakes, tell her things went wrong. Don't call on the phone and bring a black dog home. A little tartar too. Come on, little girl, tell me what you wanna do. Them Maryland crab cakes are the best in town. Them Maryland crab cakes are the best in town. So come on, baby, let's get Louisiana down. If you see my crab cake, have you seen my crab cake? If you see my crab cake, tell I'm all alone. Tell her I still love her, and when she come back home.
Time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire across the web, on Fight Now TV, and on radio stations around the world. It's the only daily boxing talk radio show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of boxing talk radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Caligiero. It's time for Talking Boxing with Billy C. Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you listen, hope you're doing all right. Special shout out to all the WMML listeners in Queensbury, Glens Falls. You know the areas you live in. What's up? Say hello to the Say hello to the little WMML fans. But don't forget the show's being brought to you in part by Cat's nationwide luxury transportation service. If you're looking for a limousine and you're someplace in the United States, well, then you need to give my girl Cat a call, 202-351-7496. Cat's nationwide luxury transportation service is the official limo service of this year's Billy C Boxing Hall of Fame gathering, get-together, weekend, the whole thing, the whole nine, whatever you want to call it. Cats Nationwide Luxury Transportation Service is going to be driving everybody around, man. All the fighters, all the celebrities, all the special guests, they're all going to be driven around by Cats Nationwide Luxury Transportation Service. If you haven't made your plans for this year's BillyCBoxing Hall of Fame weekend gathering, then you better do so right now. www.BillyCBoxing.com and click one of the BillyCBoxing Hall of Fame banners. I'll get you the latest information on that. Give Kat a call. Tell her Billy C sent you. But make sure you remember one important thing. She's my girl. 202-351-7496. My girl Kat. The show is also being brought to you in part by Campanaro and Tomkovich. If you're looking for a lawyer, use the ones that keep me out of trouble. That's Campanaro and Tomkovich. Give them a call, 845-221-4099, whether it's matrimonial law, real estate law, a will, maybe a criminal issue, whatever you have that you need legal representation, you need to have Campanaro and Tomkovich knock out your legal problem. 845-221-4099. Tell them Billy C sent you. And while you're at it, tell them I said I'll pick up the consultation fee. Hey, no reason for you not to call. 845-221-4099. And, of course, my friends over at the Halftime Bar and Grill, Route 9, South Glens Falls. Great facility there. The outdoor part is open. There's big tents out there. There's a bonfire area. There's horseshoe pits. There's bocce ball. There's an outdoor tiki bar. There's tables and chairs. And, of course, they have a full beach volleyball field or set up or whatever. So check it out, Route 9, South Glens Falls. Call ahead if you want for a fantastic dinner, 792-4869 if you're local. If you're out of the area, it's 518-792-4869. And don't forget, I am there when Friday Night Fights has fights. We're there. And we're going to be giving tickets away to the next Friday Night Fights, which is a week from this coming Friday, May 18th. Raymond Serrano against Kareem Mayfield. So if you're listening on WMML, swing by the Halftime Bar and Grill and put in your name for your chance to win a couple of tickets to the Albany Times Union, where Friday Night Fights will be coming from. Great main event, man. 2 undefeated young fighters. Check that one out. Call the Halftime. Talk to Craig. 518-792-4869. Tell him Billy C sent you. And one other thing. Don't forget about my friends over at Gleason's Gym in Brooklyn. That's right, in Brooklyn, New York. All kinds of stuff happening there. But the thing we're really focused on, at least for us, is because we want to help you. If you plan on attending this year's fantasy boxing camp at Gleason's, which is their 10th year already, I mean, it's a great experience. If you're going to do it, part of the whole thing is you train, you get prepare for a fight and everything else, and then you have an amateur fight. And we want to follow you through your whole adventure. So if you're going to do this, drop us an email, billy@talkingboxing.com, as soon as you make your arrangements over at Gleason's. And you can give them a call, 718-797-2872. That's 718-797-2872. Or go to our website, www.BillyCBoxing.com, and click the Gleason's banner, which is on the right-hand side of the screen. So I want to apologize to some of the live listeners that may not be getting this apology because one of the streams is down right now, but fear not, I'm sure it'll come up. Yesterday, the other one was down. These friggin' streams, right? But anyway, busy show scheduled for today. Alex Pierpaoli is going to be joining us in a little bit. We're going to do our blast from the past. Tiger Flowers is the guy. We'll also be talking about some fight that took place this last weekend. And some other things, like what's in the news. I've got some updates on the fight that's taking place. It was announced between David, I broke my toe, David Haye, and also, that fight against Haye-Chisora. And also some updates on the Lamont, you dummy, you real dummy, Peterson, all coming up in a little bit. But first, we got to do our mailbags, and, geez, we got a ton of them today. So let me get these rolling here. From Mr. KG1991, and this is on one of the thumbs up, thumbs down shows, which if you haven't caught those, you might as well check them out. They're pretty good. As a matter of fact, we're getting a lot of positive response on them from all over because this is being distributed everywhere. And I got a message from Mr. KG1991. He says, David, I stubbed my toe. Hey, more like undisputed cruiserweight and heavyweight champ who has had only 2 losses, This guy's a prick, him referring to me. Well, Mr. KG, 1991, I guess you're new to the show, so you didn't know that I was going to, mention your email on the air. Remember something. Once you put something in a public forum, I'm going to respond. I'm going to give you your time. And, hey, if you think David, I was referring to him yesterday in the thumbs up, thumbs down as I stubbed my toe, hey, undisputed cruiserweight champion, that could be argued, man, because he bailed out of the cruiserweight division before he had to fight. I think there was a mandatory. Well, didn't he have to fight one of those guys, and he went up into the heavyweight division? I want to say Huck, but I may be wrong there. But the bottom line is, even if you give him the cruiserweight title of undisputed, I'll give him that. But come on, as far as first of all, he was not an undisputed heavyweight champ. The way this is worded is more like undisputed cruiserweight and heavyweight champ. I'm going to assume you meant undisputed cruiserweight and some bogus heavyweight champ, because that's what it was. Give me a break about his career as a heavyweight. He was hand-fed some tomato cans. He got put in a position to win the belt only because the WBA wanted somebody different, and he got that belt. He lost it when he fought the first real guy, and don't tell me that he beat Valuev as a credible. First of all, that fight is I had Valuev winning that fight. So please, you want to be a David Haye fan, good, that's fine. But I still refer to him as David I stubbed my toe Haye. And the basic reason, I'll tell you why, Mr. KG, the basic reason and the bottom line reason is he talks all kinds of smack and doesn't back it up. There's a difference between talking smack and backing it up. And, all right, get ready. All the regular listeners, get ready. Nobody talks more smack than Floyd Mayweather Jr., but guess what? He backed it up last week. He shut guys like me up. He performed fantastically against a premium fighter. Come on. Show me where David Haye fought the best of the best and backed up what he was saying and won. You can't. Bye-bye, Mr. G. Another email. This one came from Binners83. He said, another Haye one. He said, Haye did clear out the cruiserweight division, by the way. I'm telling you, there was one fighter he walked away from. It slips from my mind, but okay, I'll give him that. You would expect, being a boxing expert, to know that. Since when did I not know that? Apparently you write comments before you even know who I am. One fight against a guy who outweighs him by 50 pounds hardly defines his career. No, but as a heavyweight, he did not have a definitive win. If you want to say that the Valuev fight was definitive, that's a shim-sham scam. Why? Because, you could argue that he didn't even win that fight. His only other notable win was against John Ruiz, who was washed up and finished at best when he fought him. So please, these last two emails sticking up for Haye, I guess you guys are a couple of the dummies that would actually pay to see David Haye. I like the Chisora fight. Thumbs up went to Chisora and David Haye for that. But as far as giving him credit, and if he beats Chisora, he deserves another shot. But besides that, you gotta prove yourself first, man. If you're in upstate New York and you need a trucking company, then you need Roselli Enterprises. Roselli Enterprises is trucking at its finest. They have it all. Dump trucks, dump trailers, walk-in floors, flatbeds, flowboys, tankers, loaders, and a full line of roll-off containers for any job, big or small. Roselli Enterprises is also the source for all your sand, gravel, and topsoil needs. Visit them on the web at RoselliTrucking.com or call 315-433-5115. That's 315-433-5115 and tell them Billy C sent you.
Are you ready, America? Then let's get it on with Fight Now TV. It's time, fight fans. Your channel has arrived. All the fights, all the names, all the action. From world-class boxing events to mixed martial arts showdowns and other combat sports matchups, Fight Now TV delivers the hits and more. Call your television provider and tell them you want to get it on with Fight Now TV. For more details, go to fightnow.com.
We've got a great matchup tonight. Fighting out of the left corner is the #1 ranked contender.
No, he is not.
I'm sorry, but who are you?
I am the IBO computer. I am programmed to provide only fair and unbiased boxing rankings. This fighter is the #15 ranked contender.
Fair and unbiased boxing rankings? That's a new concept.
Actually, it is not. The IBO has provided unbiased computerized rankings for many years.
Well, we've still got a great fight tonight, folks. In the left corner is the #15 ranked contender.
The IBO, the champion of integrity. Learn more at IBOBoxing.com.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you. I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
As a young boy, all Billy C dreamed about was one day having his own catchphrase.
And we're back. And we're back.
One boy, one dream, one day, everyone will say.
And we're back. 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 And we're back.
Catchphrase coming soon to a theater near you.
And we're back. You are listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C radio show. You're watching the replay on LDL TV on Ustream, which apparently I'm having some trouble with right now. Give a shout out to my man John. He hasn't called me back, and he certainly hasn't set up a date with me and Dawn yet. What's going on with that, John? Jeez. Anyway, glad you could join us on LDL TV. They do a fantabulous job over there. But anyway, we're reading our emails. We got Joe Santoliquito coming up a little bit later, too, so make sure you stick around for that. This one's from Roy Boxing, and he says, oh, man, Lamont failed the drug test. I wonder if the first drug test was administered properly. I was really impressed with his victory over Khan, especially his body work and pressure. I thought Khan would have kept moving in boxing, given his great amateur pedigree, but he didn't. I hope they fight again someday. Yeah, he tested positive, man, and he also admitted that he used the same so-called pellets in the first fight. It's going to be. I'm curious to find out what transpires here. I would think that Amir Khan is still going to want to go through this fight. I hope he does. And I hope that this is such a touchy situation because there's rumor that they're going to strip the titles and everything. I'm going to be getting into that in a little bit later as soon as we're done with the mailbags. But thanks for the email, Roy Boxing. I got an email from my man Bjorn, and this is an interesting email, and we're basically going to send it out to you guys. So anybody that could find out this information, because I started to look, and I think he's right. He says, first of all, he wanted to make a point. He says everybody's overanalyzing the Mayweather-Cotto fight, which, I don't know if we're overanalyzing it. I mean, we're giving it a lot of attention, and I think it deserves the attention, man. I think it deserves the attention for both of them. Not only for Mayweather's performance, but also for Cotto's performance. And the fact that Cotto is a legitimate opponent. I know all the Mayweather fans thinks he can walk on water and everything else ever since he, shaved his beard and got rid of his sandals. I mean, I know he can still walk on water, Floyd. But the bottom line is Cotto was a valid opponent for him. So I don't know, man. I don't know if we're overanalyzing it yet. If it stretches into next week, maybe. But Bjorn's got an interesting question. He says, can you confirm something for me? He says, I heard that no boxer in the history has gone from losing at 105 pounds and then gone on to beat anyone at 125, let alone 135, 40, 45, or 50. Is that true? I guess he meant losing a title maybe, or losing a fight at 105 pounds and then went up to fight and beat anyone up in, above bantamweight, 125, 135 lightweight, junior welterweight, and so on. He's referring, obviously, to Pacquiao. I started looking. Yeah, it is. I'm responding to a chat room. Yes, it's on. It's just that you got to get it from the other feed because the one feed is not working yet. So don't ask me why. That's their end. But anyway, I started looking, and to be honest with you, I have not found anyone. So this could very well be true. So if there's any listeners out there that know for a fact if this is a true statement or not, let us know. Both me and Bjorn would be happy to know. Was there any other boxer that has gone from 105 pounds and then beat anyone in the 125-pound division or above? So, Bjorn also added another email. He says, consistency is the key to all success. He says, since the De La Hoya fight, Floyd has been consistent with his fights, not only with his performances, but with the structure of his deal. He takes all the revenue and pays the fighter and Golden Boy. Both fighters take random blood and urine tests. The fight's held at MGM, blah, 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 blah. And they receive the biggest payday of his careers. That's the pattern. He says, he looked at, he got some confirmations from the Nevada State Athletic Commission through somebody else. And the bottom line is, considering what Manny has been averaging in Las Vegas. Now, these statistics are only in Las Vegas. I'm curious to find out what he made in the state of Texas. But in Las Vegas, the most Manny has ever made was $7.5 million. Now, Cotto made $8 million for fighting Floyd with Floyd's term. So people are wondering, Floyd fans are wondering why he isn't doing that. So anyway. Interesting. I'm curious to know what he did make in Texas. And the bottom line is this: whatever, man. Whatever. Let them fight. To me, the money's not the issue, but apparently to them it is. Given quality, a show's not complete without some pro Mayweather stuff. He says, "Yeah, Cotto deserves some credit at times for forcing Floyd Mayweather to the ropes, but all the sparring I watched of Floyd Mayweather Jr. training for Cotto was laying against the ropes. 3 times I watched his full workouts for 2 hours each. I don't know how you do it, man. I don't know how you can watch Floyd Mayweather's choreographed workouts that he's putting on just for that reason and sit there and watch him for 2 hours, man. More power to you, brother. He says, I watched him, and that was part of his game plan, which is kind of confusing to me. Because Floyd's a pretty slick guy, and I would think the last thing he's going to do is publicize what he's going to do in the ring. So maybe that was his plan, to make Cotto think that he wasn't going to do that, and then he comes back and slips it up with doing it. So interesting. He says, we know Floyd Mayweather understands how to move around the ring a lot and not allow guys to cut off the ring. I said Shane, which I agree with, and obviously he chose to do it a different way. But I think that he knew that Cotto couldn't. I mean, honestly, given quality, I think that he knew very quickly, and this is what I was saying yesterday, that he found out very quickly that Cotto wasn't accurate with his punches when he got Floyd against the ropes. I was talking about that yesterday. Floyd's subtle head moves and leading back prevented Cotto from, landing solid punches. Yes, he sporadically slipped one in, but for the most part, he definitely avoided them. So I think that I think that Floyd typically makes his adjustments in the first few rounds, and I think he did the same thing in this fight and chose to go against the ropes more. I thought that he felt better because personally I think the only way to beat him is out in the open. That's why I think Pac does have a chance. But anyway, he says, I said Shane and Cotley took a payday to go easy on Pacquiao, and yes, I believe that. It remains to be seen if the real Bradley will show up. If he does, he wins. I'm not going to comment on that because I don't believe it. I don't believe it. It's sickening that the diehard Mayweather fan, like Given Quality, virtually gives no credit to Manny Pacquiao. Now, it has nothing to do with thinking that Floyd's going to win or thinking Floyd's a better fighter or anything like that. That is tough to argue if you want to get into an argument like that. But guys like Given Quality, they just dismiss that Manny Pacquiao's got any talent. And then the next breath is going to be something about Bob Arum. So, how do you have educated conversation about it? It's just crazy. Not the instruction. This is Given Quality telling me about my comments about the ring stuff, about the no getting instructions in the corner. He says the instructions part you said, not getting instructions part you said, even though Roger gave a little bit and so did Nate Jones. Come on, man. For the most part, they did not say much. And like a listener said yesterday, maybe we were catching the camera at the right time. I don't know. I'm just going by the broadcast. The part where you said Floyd Mayweather didn't enjoy to see his own blood, when the camera showed him, he looked to it and smiled. That is where you were using an aha moment to claim he didn't like it, as if he was thinking, no, it makes me bleed my own blood. That's what I said. No one likes taking punishment. Pat got used to the 8-ounce gloves, blah, 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 blah. The thing is that he's aware of the cameras. When he saw the blood, you think he liked it, and I think you're agreeing with me. No one likes to see their own blood. No one likes to take punishment. No one likes to bleed. But he had the wherewithal to smile because he knew that the big screen was showing him in the corner, and he wanted to smile. When people were cheering, I think he was smiling more at that, laughing, because he's laughing his way to $40 million, Alex is in the chat room right now. Blah, blah, I love the blood, blah, 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 blood. But anyway, Hawk Mustang says, if Manny started busting up Floyd really good, Floyd may do a Mike Tyson and bite Pacquiao's ear off. I don't think Floyd would do that, but I'm telling you right now, Floyd would be totally out of his game if Manny Pacquiao started busting him up. And I said this yesterday. The more I think of it, the more I value George, my man George's thought process about, when I was arguing with him about with heart versus pride, and I think Floyd's pride will be the death of him. As a matter of fact, I was talking to Tony Treem, Marlon Starlin yesterday, and he said pride is what kills all fighters. As a matter of fact. We talked, I'll get to Marlon a little bit later, but I had a very extensive conversation with him about this fight and about some other stuff, which I'll talk about in a little bit when my man Alex comes on, because they're like blood brothers, speaking of blood. But I think that if Manny started getting to Floyd would become unraveled. And what I mean by that is his pride would become so questioned in his mind, not by anybody else, but in his mind, he would have to prove so much that Manny's not getting to him, that all of what makes him so great would go out the window. That's what I think will happen to Mayweather when and if, and this time may never come. We may never see it, because at this point in time, there's nothing left for Floyd to prove. He could walk away right now, and we would never be able to see it. That's why some fighters need to know when to say when. Right now, Floyd is at the top of his career. After the last two, you could even say 3 performances, it would be hard for people to be critical of him at this stage because you remember the most recent stuff, But I do believe that if they don't go well for Floyd, if he should fight anyone, we're mentioning Pacquiao here, but anyone for that matter, I am confident that he would become unraveled. He would go back to his corner. There would be chaos in his corner, and things would just get out of hand. And that is what would beat Floyd. Not so much his opponent, but I think Floyd beats Floyd, similar to the way Marvin Hagler beat himself about, listening to his own stupidity when he fought Sugar Ray Leonard. So I think some similarities are there. And Hawk's got one more comment. Then we're going to take a quick break, and I'll finish up the mailbags. He says, Lamont, you big dummy, Cheaterson. That's his thing on the Lamont Peterson stuff. Hey, listen, I got a few more mailbags or emails in our mailbag that I'm going to talk about, all coming up in about 2.
Are you ready, America? Then let's get it on with Fight Now TV. It's time, fight fans. Your channel has arrived. All the fights, all the names, all the action. From world-class boxing events to mixed martial arts showdowns and other combat sports matchups, Fight Now TV delivers the hits and more. Call your television provider and tell them you want to get it on with Fight Now TV. For more details, go to fightnow.com.
Broadcasting in all corners of the globe, on the web and radio.
He would scoff at a stretch of that man, I would
think. You're listening to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. from upstate New York in the good old US of A.
Boxing is here to stay because we are here to stay.
The best 2 hours of boxing talk on the airwaves.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. And tell him Billy C sent ya.
Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C, damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2. My fellow Americans, good evening. Welcome back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It's great to be here discussing the sweet science with everybody. I love boxing. I love talking boxing. It's what I do.
Bill.
Wait, what?
Bill.
Why are you interrupting?
Yeah,
Wait, what?
Wrong.
What's
wrong,
the problem?
Billy,
What?
C.
I did not have...
We're gonna have to ask
wrong
you.
speech.
Leave.
What do you mean wrong, Billy C? What's going on here? Fine, I'll go. I just wanted to talk some boxing on TPSradio.net. That's all I wanted to do. I don't need your damn show. I'll get my own talking wrestling with the other Billy C. Yeah, that sounds good. I've always been a Hulkamaniac anyway.
Broadcasting live, brother. Welcome back to Talking Boxing with Billy C. on the mighty TPSradio.net, brother. What you gonna do, brother?
And we're back. You are listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C. Radio show, and you're watching it on the Fight Now television channel. What? You don't have Fight Now? Come on, man. What the hell are you waiting for? You got to call your local television provider and tell them that you want the Fight Now channel added to your sports channel lineup right now. Simple, man. Pick up the phone. Call whoever you get your TV service with. I don't care if it's a satellite or a cable TV. Whatever you get, call them and tell them that you want Fight Now right now. Especially all you peoples out there that have the AT&T U-verse network. If you have that provider, they're waiting for your call right now as we speak. Pick up the phone. And if you got some time, fill out the little survey we got. It takes you about 30 seconds. There's maybe 5 questions. And trust me, you won't need a cheat sheet to fill them out. Go visit the website, www.BillyCBoxing.com. Right on the front page, you'll see a little banner. It's right on top. It says AT&T Fight Now. Click it. We'll take you right to where you got to go. Take 30 seconds. Help us out. Help you out. Get Fight Now on AT&T U-verse. And speaking of Fight Now, all the information can be found on their website, www.fightnow.com. And I'll tell you another thing about Fight Now. I want to welcome the Fight Now audience just joining us. That's right. Glad you guys could make it. We're talking about the some emails we got. We're finishing them up. We got a bunch of them, as you could expect. And I'm on EQX. He says, Bob Arum is the only obstacle in the Manny and Floyd fight, period. He says, I and also he says, I think Floyd slapped the punches to get the right hook around Cotto's defense. He clearly slapped some punches. Whatever the reason is, whatever. That is a very good thought. It's a pretty good observation that he was doing that. I just clearly saw him landing more than on one occasion punches that were with what I call slap with the heel of his glove. Whether he's trying to set up another punch or not, good point. As far as Bob Arum being the only obstacle, if I say I agree, it's only because there's an issue between Arum and Mayweather, and that's it. I think Bob Arum wants to fight. I think Mayweather doesn't really want to deal with him, and because of it, nobody's willing to budge. So I listen, the fight's going to happen. I think that this fight will happen in November. I think it's the only fight left for Floyd, and Floyd wants this fight. I think Floyd honestly wants this fight, and so does Manny. And at some point in time, when push comes to shove, it ends up being up to the fighters. Now, if Floyd is saying how much he wants to fight and is making the deal unbelievable, where Manny Pacquiao just won't do it, that's a whole other story. Basic purse split, basic 50-50 for the pay-per-view. I don't see a problem with that. Floyd wants to get the other back-end money on his own. He deserves that. He's they're both the draw. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. My man Mike Irving came back with another. He says, one more thing. He's pulling a Columbo on me. This came later than the one I read yesterday. He says, Floyd is saying that Manny must be on drugs. And he's emphasizing the word must. He says, as there's no other explanation for how good he is. I don't ever recall Floyd saying exactly that. And this, according to Mike Irving, says that is exactly what he is saying. He said that this guy is so good, he must be on drugs. I just can't believe anyone could be that good otherwise. Nobody seems to have realized this thought in effect. And I don't know if he's ever said those exact words, but it would be interesting to find out. I never saw that quote, but he says, he goes on to say, in effect, then Floyd is Manny's biggest fan, and I don't care what other people say. And he's saying, for those who have utterly abandoned critical thinking, might say Floyd is scared to fight him because he does not feel 100% confident he can beat him. It's as simple as that. I know that this is new. He says, I know that there's this new it's Arum's fault that Floyd's putting out, but I don't buy it. If Floyd hadn't taken it upon himself to be the arbitrator of drugs testing, the fight would have happened 3 years ago. And now his new issue or excuse is the purse split. Whatever. He doesn't want to fight Pacquiao. It's as plain and simple as the nose on my face, and I got a big nose. So do I. And it doesn't mean anything else. But anyway, the bottom line is I think Floyd does want to fight, and I don't think he's scared. I think Floyd is about the money, and so is Manny. I think that Bob Arum is about the money, and so is Manny, and so is Floyd. I think boxing wants it. I think that the shelf life, as was mentioned earlier in the year, it will expire. I think Floyd's aware of this. I think the fight will happen, and I think it will happen in November. I get another email from my man Alex T., the other Alex. He says, when the Peterson story broke, I had read that Peterson tested positive for a banned substance. That could mean that could mean a million things. Could it have been a diuretic or something to help him cut weight? Could it have been some sort of stimulant? Now I know it's been confirmed that he tested for artificial testosterone enhancer. This is great. There's no excuse for that. He said, for argument's sake, let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say he bought some supplement at GNC or online that's completely legal, and he thought it was okay. He better damn well know exactly what he's putting into his body, and his team should know that too. Like I said, no excuse. I'm sure the whole card will get scrapped too, which really sucks for a guy like me who plans his weekends around the fights. You're not the only one that plans your weekends around the fights, Alex T. And, Alex makes a really good point. These guys are professionals, man. This is how they make their living. Whether they know every little thing that goes in their body and what the effect is, or someone that they hired to look out for them should all know. And I agree with Alex. There's no excuse for this. There's no excuse. Regardless of which one they come up with, there's no excuse. I'm more curious to see how Amir Khan handles this, because I was very vocal in calling him a crybaby and everything else about the belts and not, being able to just accept the loss and everything else. How does a guy like Khan want this to go down? Certainly they're not going to hand Khan the belts. And if they do, that is utterly sickening, okay? But they're not going to hand him the belts. They're going to make him fight somebody else. But if I'm Khan, and I think the way I thought Khan was thinking, that he just couldn't accept losing to Lamont Peterson and losing his belts and blah, 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 that, his main focus is to beat the crap out of Lamont Peterson. And I would think that he would want it, no matter what. I think he would want that fight. So I'm waiting to see what Amir Khan does. But, honestly, there's not much fault you could do with him. But anyway, Alex T goes on to say, hey, Billy C., are you trying to pull a fast one on us? This Canadian guy sounds like Johnny Robbins with a sore throat. No, Alex T. And he's referring to Richard Lewis, who we had on yesterday as a guest. And no, it was not Johnny Robbins. Those Canadians, they all sound alike. You know how they are. This email is from my man Gene Murray out of the UK. And this is very interesting stuff. He wanted to straighten me out. And for all these guys that call me a know-it-all and all this stuff when they're knocking me or some so-called expert like I read today or whatever, I've never claimed that. And I love emails like this one that educate me. And everyone in this business and the legitimate historians in this business will be the first to tell you that they don't know everything. Anybody that acts like they know everything about any sport, forget about boxing, any sport, doesn't know crap. And I value my man Jerry Murray because he said, and I quote in an email, listen to your show yesterday about the Chisora and David Haye fight and how it could happen in the UK. It's because we're signed up to the European Union freedom of trade laws. If the Luxembourg Boxing Federation has licensed it, then legally there's no way they can prevent them from staging the event in London. He's talking about the BBB of C. He says it'd be the same as stopping a company from Luxembourg, France, Germany, or any other European Union country trading in London. The BBB of C can penalize Frank Warren as a registered promoter and manager, but there's not much else they can do to Haye and Chisora. It'll be interesting to see if they go after Frank, given his influence here and the fact he's got a lot of young prospects signed up and currently televising the lion's share of the UK fights on Box Nation, which he's the major shareholder in. My guess is the board doesn't have deep enough pockets or the desire for a fight with Warren, so he probably will just bang their fists on the table a little bit while they get some good PR before they let him get it on, get on with the show. He says probably means the undercard will have no young Warren British prospects on it, as he potentially puts them on when there's no risk involved. Great email from Jerry Murray. I appreciate you straightening me out about that. And now it makes sense. In Europe, that's why they brought in this other sanctioning body, and it has nothing to do with whether Chisora has a license or David Haye has a license or anything. So, and as we learn now, and we'll talk about it a little later, Hasim Rahman is going to be getting his world title shot, which is a total joke, against Alexander Povetkin on the undercard. So, my man Sammy, another UK guy, says, I've just watched the Alofalobi and Huck fight. What a tremendous display, by the way, and could not help notice in the arena it was packed. Germany are doing something right. He says, it was packed. He says, I mean, if HBO Showtime think they own boxing, they should beware of the Germans. Even the Japanese do a good job, and they've had big events. You don't need two American giants. Can you please talk a little about the boxing outside the U.S.? I think the sport could be even bigger if it was marketed with franchises. and he says, if you say spit on the WBC one more time, I'll piss on myself with laughter. He says, man, I like that when we need class fights, not mediocre fights. He's mentioning that too. One thing I will say, and this is the last email, is that there's no question that the Germans do it right over there in Germany, and most other countries do. I think that what happens is that here in the U.S., the promoters are so focused on the television revenue that they don't care as much as the ticket gates. I think, at least it looks that way. Or when they get a site fee from a major casino, they're getting paid already, and then they figure out it's the casino's problem to sell tickets. But I think that's an interesting question. And joining us right now is an interesting fella that can give us his thoughts on that. My man Alex Pierpaoli's joining us. What's up, man?
Good morning, Billy C. I think that's a great question, and why not see? And I think the fighters of the '80s you would have seen maybe Mayweather versus Martinez in Buenos Aires. How awesome would that be? That would be an enormous crowd. But you know what? Mayweather would never do it. And I think, like I was saying last week, he's going off the Roy Jones model. And, I think the previous emailer is right. We do, and I think that's unfortunately what happens in the sport is the big power brokers just want to make their money over here in Vegas. And we see that Vegas is hungry for it. They're willing to put justice on hold to get those dollars from a Mayweather fight.
Yeah, this is true. And, but doesn't it have more... I like your thought, and first of all, I want to thank Sammy for that email. It was a great one. But think
about it. Look at Marvin Hagler. Went to England to fight for the title.
Yeah, Alan Minter, right? I mean, when
a lot of guys in the '80s did that.
Well, today, what I was just going to say was that don't you think it's more about the TV coverage and the times at which the shows would be broadcast? I mean,
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's a good point. I
mean, I personally love when I get to watch a European event and it's starting at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, geez, I could stay awake for those. But, these fights like the last week, it starts off, the main event didn't even come on until 11:45, and that's a long night, man.
Yeah, if it's a major American network that's putting it on, then that's probably the ideal time zone for them. And yeah, I think Buenos Aires is probably more like their time zone might be more like Texas or something, or maybe I don't know. They're south of. I guess if you need a globe.
Well, I'll tell you, the Europeans have proved to us that they don't care about having an event at 3 o'clock in the morning because they've done it before, and
Yeah, that's true. They used to, those Ricky Hatton fans used to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning if he was fighting over here.
Come on, the Ricky Hatton fans are still drinking over Ricky Hatton. Those guys are unbelievable. When he came over here to Vegas and they brought there was over 10,000 of them or something that made the trip out of 15,000. People that fit in the arena, they estimated that almost 10,000 were Hatton fans, which is amazing.
Well, I got to say that if you watch the weigh-in, and I think that's almost a better barometer than the fight itself, because the weigh-ins are free. If you watch, and all it is the theater of the stare down, which I thought was manufactured the other night for this big pay-per-view. But look at the crowd that showed up for the Cotto Mayweather weigh-in. It was unbelievable, and I think the only thing close was probably the Hattonites who show up. They come out in force, but I guess people must be coming out to see him lose because they definitely got cheers for when his nose was bloodied, and that was up on the big screen.
Oh yeah. They might have come for a sight, a glimpse at Miss Jackson. Because man,
well, she was certainly offering a quite more than a glimpse.
Oh my goodness! I just that was the only time I was jealous of Mayweather, man. I'm like, damn. But anyway, let's talk about that fight, Miguel Cotto and Floyd Mayweather Jr. First and foremost, I thought it was a fantastic fight. I scored the fight 116-112. I don't particularly care for Mayweather, but you can't deny his performance in any way, shape, or form. I do know some Mayweather fans that actually had it even closer, but then I had some guys that had it all one-sided. I think Cotto found a way to beat Mayweather, except he couldn't finish pulling the trigger, so to speak, and that was to kind of throw more punches. I thought that he stopped throwing punches, and I can't put my finger on whether he stopped because he wanted to reload or whether he stopped because he knew that they weren't really being effective. When he had Floyd against the ropes, he was throwing punches, but they weren't landing as clearly and as flushly as they were when he had him in the middle of the ring.
Right. Well, and I think that the output of Cotto was shut down to some degree. As you're insinuating that, he did take control. But Cotto definitely pressed him well. And you're right. It was just he used some nice basics, and there were a couple of sidestep moves he used on him in that fifth and sixth round. But we haven't seen Mayweather battered around a bit, and battered around in a clean way. The thing about the Ortiz fight is it was plagued with, dirty tactics on both sides. This
just a
was
one round.
Boxing. And that's what was nice. But I guess the part that I'm surprised you say it was a fantastic fight. I didn't think it was fantastic. I think people are so shocked that Cotto did was competitive at all that we're giving it this great reputation, and I'm not sure that's quite deserved. I think it was a decent fight. I think, again, Mayweather does not take risks. Like I said on the Fight Now show afterwards, I really thought there was a point there where, and especially in that 12th round, he could have scored a knockdown. If he's afraid to, not afraid, but he won't risk. He won't, he's not a gladiator like these guys we talk about every week in the Blast from the Past. I mean, he's a different kind of fighter. He's so safety first, and yet he talks as if, he is just, he's Russell Crowe, and he's not Russell Crowe.
Listen, man, I can't stand the guy the way he talks, but I'm shocked that you don't think that was and I use the word fantastic fight because, first of all, he did not, I don't think, we can't say that his defensive style is safety. I mean, yeah, everybody's defense is supposed to be safety, so I'm not going to criticize him for that. And as a result of his defense, some of the punches weren't landing clear, flush as far as the ones Cotto was landing. But as far as Mayweather goes, he could have been typical cautious of Mayweather in the past and outboxed Cotto. I mean, if he circled around Cotto and
thank God he did us a favor. We're just thankful for his scraps. I don't know. I was disappointed. I thought if he turned up the heat, he could have stopped him. Look, if he's supposed to be, he keeps going back and forth about whether he'll fight Pacquiao or not. We know that the yardstick is the two of them. Nobody in the division has reflexes like either one of them, and that's when it comes right down to. That's why, to me, this fight, I said I would be shocked if Cotto won 3 rounds. Well, I think he did. I think you could argue he won 4. But in that sense, Mayweather dominated. But think about what Pacquiao did to Cotto. He crushed him, and so did Margarito. And Mayweather, here he is. In that 12th round, he had him hurt and stuff. And I think that's what he could have done sooner. But he's Mayweather. He's not a destroyer, and that's why the styles are so tantalizing to see him in there against Pacquiao.
Yeah, well, listen, I think that, and
Cotto's damaged goods now.
I've said this before, I'll say it again. Mayweather needs Pacquiao for his legacy more than Pacquiao needs Mayweather. I
think you're right. I think this kind of proved it. Because, think about this. Cotto, this was not the Cotto coming out of the Mosley win. That would have been a more significant victory.
Yeah. Well, on the other hand, Cotto seemed improved since he got battered by Manny Pacquiao. He seems like a better fighter. Now, we could argue who he fought since then, but listen, when you look at the whole landscape, and we could basically feed two divisions here. We could look at the welterweight division and the junior middleweight division, and I ask you this one simple question. Who else is there for Floyd aside from Pacquiao? We could argue.
Sergio Martinez.
That's the
I think
only.
That's what we got to start talking about.
But that's the only.
I think you're right, Bill. I think that and I think maybe what Joe Santoliquito has said about that doomed Bob Arum, and I hate to heap on him because I think he gets a raw deal. There's like you were saying, seems to be like just a publicity campaign, and this whole fight to some degree was a Scroogey to Bob Arum, because remember Cotto was with them, and then it turned out that because Mayweather, for all intents and purposes, he wanted to see if he could get away with fighting Alvarez. That was the whole Cinco de Mayo thing. Alvarez is Mexican. And then once the idea of Cotto splitting with Arum, they could fight Cotto in their next fight, move up, grab another belt, make Cotto a lot of money away from Bob Arum. They go with that fight instead. He's Puerto Rican, close enough in Mayweather's mind. You know how this guy talks about race relations with Manny Pacquiao. So I don't know. To me, the whole thing seems sort of manufactured. And I think the only way we're going to see a challenge, because he doesn't want to fight Pacquiao. He was saying the whole thing about the blood tests. When that's not an obstacle, now he's about the 50-50. And what's his name? Larry Merchant didn't press him on that. And, he could have, and I think he should have, but they wanted to make all nice. I don't know. To me, again, it was big HBO manipulating us into a show. And I don't know. I'm hoping that Pacquiao-Bradley is a fight. And I mean, the other reason, Bill, is that, and I hate to use these as my support, but just think of the action factor in terms of, Cotto versus Mayweather. I mean, and hate to look at them as an example, but look at the punch stat numbers. In fights that you would say are fantastic fights, I bet double the punches are thrown. To me, one of my favorite fights is Barrera versus Morales 1. That fight, I bet the punch stats were like 1,100 punches thrown each, or around there. These guys threw out 600 punches. I mean, that's a pretty slow-paced, typical Mayweather fight. And I think to a great degree, that's what it was, a dominant Mayweather fight over a guy who's been knocked out twice.
Well, the stats were just nauseating, and how... I don't mind looking at the stats. I mean, I'm actually interested in them at the end of the fight, but it has become nauseating how much. Oh, yeah. I don't think Lampley knows how to call a fight anymore because it's terrible. You mentioned that.
I can't wait for a show, and I hope that you can become a guest.
And
that would
ask
be
him.
Awesome. I want to start a campaign, a Twitter campaign,
and ask
get you as a guest on his show,
and ask him what the hell is up with the stats, But one other quick question before we take a break and do the Tiger Flowers, as far as there's actually two things I wanted to ask you. As far as Sergio Martinez, I don't know if that fight, I mean, from us boxing purists and the diehard fan, yeah, we want to see it because we know Sergio and everything else. But Sergio, he doesn't have the formula for Mayweather. He doesn't have the draw. He's not as, tantalizing as far as interest and everything else. Yes, he's got the talent, But then we could also say, well, his last couple of fights, yes, he's won in dramatic fashion. But up until those stoppages, he looked mediocre at best. I just don't think the desire is there as much as Floyd Pacquiao. And if you do take Sergio out of the mix and you take Pacquiao out of the mix, there's not one other name you could throw at me that I would say, oh, yeah, that would make a good fight,
Right. Well, and that's the reason why I think his name has to be in the mix.
Yeah.
And I disagree. I don't think he looked mediocre in his last two fights. I thought he looked great. I think that he's a small middleweight. And I think for what he's an endurance middleweight, and he's not a power puncher middleweight, but I mean, there's time. He has beautiful timing, and as we can see, he's put together some beautiful knockouts because of that incredible timing. But
he's fighting slow guys.
Most of his knockouts are peppering guys to death.
Yeah, but look at the guys he's peppering.
He's a biker, so he gets guys down the long haul. That's why I think it would be an interesting fight with Mayweather. That was the thing what was exciting with Cotto. There was rounds where Mayweather was fully engaged. That's what we want to see. When he's not looking out into the crowd, seeing what Justin Bieber's doing, and stuff like that, and making faces to people and talking to the commentators. We want to see him fighting, and at least at times during this fight, and Cotto did bring that out of him. And I think, like Amy Green said, Cotto had 3 really good rounds right in the center of the fight.
Yeah, well, I think that's where Pacquiao takes the fight, and that's why I think Pacquiao has a really good chance of beating Floyd if they fought, a chance of beating Floyd. But I disagree about...
I think the size is a little bit of a problem with Pac-Man.
Well, that's just true. Floyd is bigger than Pacquiao. There's no question about it. Pacquiao is just like Floyd is maximum at junior middleweight, I think Manny's really maximum at junior welterweight, let alone welterweight.
But listen, here's my...
Hold up. Hey, Dave, Alex. Hold the thought. I got to take a break. We'll finish that up as soon as I come back.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. now has official merchandise available on TalkinBoxing.com. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, and mugs. And yes, even undergarments. Talkin' Boxing apparel is the perfect gift for the boxing fan in your life. Log on to www.talkinboxing.com. That's TalkinBoxing.com and place your order today.
Join us here for 2 hours as Billy and the gang do what they do best.
Every time I start talking about boxing, a white man got to pull Rocky Marciano out their ass. Rocky Marciano was good, but compared to Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano ain't.
He beat Joe Louis's ass.
Joe Louis was 75 years old when he fought.
Huh?
What?
We're supposed to be talking boxing.
It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
As Billy C. sits here in the multi-million-dollar Talkin' Boxing studios, sipping a fine wine before you're even out of bed, you should be thinking, damn, I wish I had a mustache like his. It's the Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. show. He's Billy C., and you're not. Sucks to be you.
Now let's dig into our archives and hear a rare interview when Billy C. first became the champion of boxing talk radio. Hello, Billy C. As the new champ, can we ask you a few questions?
Why, certainly.
Okay, your fans would like to know how you and your corner have successfully walloped the competition.
We're not ordinary people. We're morons.
Anything else?
I'm a victim of circumstance.
Did your success finally come when you made the show 5 days a week for 2 hours? What do you think?
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Now, please tell the listeners what you've learned from making it this far.
Certainly. If at first you don't succeed, keep on sucking till you do succeed.
Great words of wisdom, Billy C. Keep up the great work as the undisputed People's Champion with your show, Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Any last words to anyone who's listening?
This is your fault, you bonehead.
And we're back. You are listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C., a radio show. You are watching it on the Fight Now television channel. And just to remind you guys, don't forget about Gleason's Gym. Check them out, www.BillyCBoxing.com, and click the Gleason's banner. It's on the right-hand side of the screen. Got a lot of stuff going on at Gleason's this month, next month, the month after. There's always something going on there. Check it out. Tell them Billy C sent you. But especially in August, they got this year's Fantasy Boxing Camp. It's the 10th year they're doing it. If you're interested in doing that, we want to follow you, man. We want to follow you. We want to write a story about you. We want to cover your fight that you have at the camp. So go up to Gleason, sign up, and then let us know so we can make some plans, all right? Tell them Billy C sent you. Joining us right now is my man Alex Pierpaoli. We're going to do our segment here in a second, but we're talking about a couple of things. First, to finish up our thought, I was saying about Sergio Martinez fighting Floyd. And you had said that I made a reference that I didn't think his last two performances were that great, even though he won by knockout. I thought they started off kind of slow, almost like he was boring. You came back and thought that they were exciting and everything. But my comment was, the thing is you can't compare that level of opposition and the styles those guys brought to a guy like Floyd Mayweather when it comes to Sergio. I mean, I don't know, how effective his style would be against Sergio or even Manny for that matter.
Right. Well, but I think that, like you said, there's no one else at his level or of his caliber to think of opposing him. And there's just few challenges. And I think one of the things that we saw is that Mayweather is big. He fits right in at 154. And by fight time, I see that's one of the things. I know the punch stat is not very valuable, maybe in the end, as you said. But one thing that HBO does that they did not do the other night was the weights in the locker room. I always like to see what that is. With Julio Cesar Chavez, it's fun. But with Junior, rather. But with anyone else, I think it's something that you actually can kind of learn something because you get more an idea of how big the guy actually is. Mayweather had weighed in at, 151, so he wasn't even a full 154. We know Martinez fights at round 157 when he weighs in. But when he gets into the ring, because I remember in some of the numbers HBO has for like the Barker fight and things like that, I think he was up to like 160-something. So Martinez would have a size advantage on him. Mayweather would have, I would say, some speed advantage and the boxing acumen. But I think the style of Martinez, what is Martinez that Cotto showed? One, he's a southpaw, and he's got a great jab. And Cotto showed that using a great jab works. Martinez could stick a busy, pesky jab in Mayweather's face. I don't know. I think the fight could be interesting. And like you said, for Mayweather, there's only the challenges that are out there. There is nothing at 154, quite frankly. There is at middleweight. There's Pacquiao, but he's down at 147, and even that, Pacquiao has only weighed 146, like we talked about last week. It could very well be Bradley gives him a hell of a night. I quite frankly think of the two opponents, Pacquiao has the much more difficult opponent in Bradley than Mayweather had in Cotto. And it could be that we see a tough fight against Bradley, and then we see Marquez fight Zab Judah, and then they fight again, Marquez, Pac-Man again, after that. And they sort of settle things at 140, 142. And Mayweather's up in the 154 range. I mean, that's what it could end up being, because I think as Joe Santoliquito has talked about with the Lopez-Gamboa fight, the forces that be let this percolate too long.
Yeah, well, they certainly have. I just think that Floyd, because Sergio has such a really, he's got no defense. His defense is his offense. He's got that hands down style, and the only thing I will admit is that in order for Floyd to take advantage of it, he would have to get in close, and that's right in Sergio Martinez's game plan.
Yeah, and Floyd doesn't like that.
No.
So think about that. I don't know. I think it's interesting. There's a lot of dimensions to it. You're right.
Yeah, but
the two styles do kind of clash, and isn't that what we want?
Well, just the way Floyd was more effective inside and against the ropes with Cotto, maybe that kind of a game plan is the same for Sergio Martinez, because Sergio lands these crazy overhand type punches and stuff, and he, that's where I thought Cotto was making his mistake this past weekend. He was landing overhand punches, but Floyd's head was just leaning back enough where they didn't really hurt him,
Right.
And I thought he should have went.
I think a lot of that's the reflexes, that Floyd sees them and knows they're coming just quick enough that he can get just out of the way, just out of harm's way.
And I thought that Cotto should have used the body a little more. Hey, one other thing before let's get off that subject before we get into our blast from the past. What's your thoughts on this Lamont Peterson thing?
Oh, what a I wish it wasn't true, but it sure sounds like it's true. Evidently, both, I guess, when the samples are given, they are separated, and the A sample was tested positive, and then the B sample subsequently tested positive. And then I think even I'm not sure. I didn't reread the whole thing, but I did listen to the conference call yesterday. But I did look at some of the Gabe Montoya of Max Boxing really seems to be leading the way on this. So if people are on Twitter, they should definitely check him out. He's all over this, and he's been covering the whole drug testing issue and PEDs like nobody else. And I really think that to get the whole story, I would go there. But to me, it's just so sad because that already was a rematch. I was looking forward to seeing Peterson confirm what I thought Amir Khan, because, you know, when I was talking about reflexes, the only other person you could argue could maybe be in there as a challenge for a Pacquiao or a Mayweather's Amir Khan. But quite frankly, I thought he pushed and shoved his way to a, crybaby decision that he deservedly lost. And I was going to be interested to see Peterson, beat him for fair and square. I guess the fair and square part's out.
Well, I'm curious to see what happens now. They did. You're right about the test. When they give the sample, they take 2, and if one tests positive, you have the option of having the second one tested, and if that tested negative, then you would get another opportunity. They did choose the option. It did test positive. However, 2 days after that, they gave another sample, and that tested negative. So, I don't know what they're going to do. My hope is that somehow, not that first of all, if he was cheating, that's the worst thing he can do. Second of all, if there was a reason for it, not that I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I'd like to see the fight come off only because I want to see Amir Khan win in the ring. I don't want him to be handed belts or handed some, out of left field mandatory opponent to fight for the belts if the Peterson fight doesn't go on. I think he needs to beat Peterson for not only his own mental self, but for his claim to being a legitimate opponent for a guy like Pacquiao or Mayweather, or you know what I mean? I mean, he's got to win in the ring.
Yeah, that's true. It would be unfortunate if they just are able to slip in some other name and it's just a warm body.
Which they would do. Which they would definitely do. But anyway, I think it's time for the
Blast from the Past. We shine the spotlight again on fighters from years past.
Top ranking. Joe Louis is the leading contender.
Joe Frazier with a left hook. Good right hand thrown by Foreman that time. Look at that left hook. Belt that goes to Ray Mancini.
It's Blast from the Past on Talkin' Boxing.
And this week's Blast from the Past, which is being sponsored by the International Boxing Organization, where their computerized ranking system is second to none. Check it out at their website, www.iboboxing.com. Features a guy that we already did once before, according to Alex Pierpaoli's top-notch record, bookkeeping, whatever. Hall of Famer, former champion, Tiger Flowers. And joining us is the man himself, Alex Pierpaoli. Tell us about Tiger Flowers, brother.
Tiger Flowers. He was born Theodore Flowers in Camille, Georgia, August 5th of 1895, and he stood about 5 foot 10 inches tall, and he ranged in weight, fought as a middleweight, from as low as 157 right on up to about 168, which, today he'd be actually in 2 divisions. They called him the Fighting Deacon, or the Georgia Deacon, the Georgia Cyclone, because he was a deacon in his church in Brunswick, Georgia, and he was a very spiritual man. And the Cyclone part was he had a very whirlwind, peppering style of fighting, two-fisted type attacking style, and they described him as sort of like lawn sprinklers with both hands kind of spraying. An all-action style, and he got, as a teen, one of his first jobs was working as a porter in the gym of Philadelphia Jack O'Brien, and he would make $15 a week there, just working as a porter for the guys that trained in there.
You know, which is strange. Now, just so people know, Tiger Flowers was born in 1895. So we're talking about a guy who had his pro boxing career in the early 1920s when he started it. And normally when we talk about fighters from this era, you got to admit, Alex, we're talking about guys that started out when they're 14, 15 years old. The guy turned pro at 16. You know, we're hearing all these stories that, you know, back then you were already married with 9 kids by the time you were 18, you know. And here's a guy that started not only late for his era, but really late for our era today. He started boxing at 23.
Yeah, that is real old for a lot of the guys that we've seen. And, you know, I didn't really see much about his younger life. I'm not really sure why it is, what he was doing, you know, if it was just working.
Yeah.
Maybe it was, you know, training or at least doing some sparring and stuff because it sounded like he was at least around gyms when he's young.
Yeah, well, his job got him you know, exposed to some fighters and stuff, and they urged him to give it a try, and he liked it, you know, and you know, he basically fought a couple of amateur fights and then turned pro right at 23 years old, man. So it was kind of crazy. I think. I mean, considering what took place in that era, you know, during that time, you know. So
right.
But you know, his career didn't last that long, and that's a whole nother thing about Tiger Flowers that you may not know, the listeners may not know. You know, his first professional fight was in 1918. His career spanned, you know, a good length, if you consider it, 9 years. But you know, look at all the fights he had. He had over 161 fights, if you include the ones that had the newspaper decision. I mean, 161 fights in 9 years is a hell of a lot of fights.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, and I mean, he was, you know, it was during that Jim Crow era in America here, and there was the color line was a reality that black fighters had to deal with, and so there was, you know, basically batches of African-American fighters who fought each other again and again, and he had a couple of knockout losses to some of the great names that I'm sure some of the listeners know about. He was knocked out cold by Kid Norfolk twice, and he was knocked out by Sam Langford. And Panama Joe Gans, who we did just recently, I think, in a blast, stopped him twice on cuts and swelling. The thing about Tiger Flowers is he showed that a fighter can still make a Hall of Fame career out of themselves, even after having suffered, you know, severe knockouts like that, you know, knocked out cold type knockouts. You know, Sam Langford, I mean, he knocked you out. It was like getting hit with a cannonball.
Well, you know, it's interesting you mentioned him losing by knockout. In his career, he had 15 losses. 10 of those he was knocked out in. You know, so here's a guy that, you know, he could knock people out, but he also got knocked out himself. And
it kind of disproves my whole thing about Cotto.
What, that he was spent?
That to some degree Cotto was spent because he's been knocked out twice. If he's like Tiger Flowers, you know, my rule doesn't mean anything because Tiger Flowers was the exception to that rule.
Well, like somebody brought up to me the other day, they were like, "What happened with Sugar Shane Mosley's power?" I thought the power was the last thing to go. And that's true. You know, we always say, wow, the last thing to go is the power. They always got the power, but they lose the reflexes, they lose the speed, they lose the foot movement, you know, but the power's there. And then Saturday we watched Sugar Shane Mosley fight Saul Alvarez, and it seemed like the guy had nothing on his punches at all. So,
well, you know, because he always wished he had power at 154, but his biggest punching power days were at lightweight. And, you know, I mean, when he was although when Winky Wright dropped his hands and urged Shane to crack him, Shane did. He almost knocked him out.
Yeah. Well, Tiger Flowers, he fought some tough guys early on. You mentioned a couple of them, Kid Norfolk. He fought a few times, Kid Williams. You know, some other fighters later on that he fought. Obviously, some big names. But one of the guys that sticks in my mind I mean, you go down and look at the names that he fought throughout his career. It's just everybody, a who's who, including Harry Greb, who he actually won a decision, a 15-round decision against Harry Greb when he won the title in 1926. But one guy that sticks out to me is a fight that he had in 1923, and it's a guy that most of our listeners probably never heard of, but Fireman Jim Flynn was a regular name we saw in the heavyweight division, which surprised me to see him fighting at middleweight.
Yeah, and that was actually a pretty exciting fight. One, there was a huge weight disparity between them. Fireman Jim Flynn was around 185, so today he'd be a cruiserweight. And Flowers, came in as basically as a middle, but back then you could be getting those between the weight fights it seemed more common, like they would agree on things like that, because we're talking about 20-pound weight differential. Sometimes you see that today, but you'd see it only in the heavyweight division. But during the fight, basically Flowers was smoking him, winning every round, just completely outboxing him. Unfortunately, he broke his hand in the second round, and about the middle of the fifth, the arena went pitch dark, and it took about 30 minutes for them to get the lights back on. And in the interim, Flowers' hand swelled up so much he couldn't even move it, and they had to stop the fight. But he was smoking him, so it would have been one of those situations where the David beats Goliath, but for the blackout.
What they used to do back then with the weights is if you were in an upper weight class and someone from a lower weight class challenged you, they could care less as long as you didn't weigh over the weight limit. They didn't have the worry of a 6-pound. Now it's anywhere from 4 to 6 pound swing in a division. If you even the same division, so like 141 pounder, which technically is a welterweight, some commissions won't let them fight a guy that weighs in at 147, even though the welterweight limit is 147. And because it's a 6 pound swing. Sometimes they don't let it happen. But this guy, Tiger Flowers, won his title against the late great Harry Greb, and actually retained his title with a rematch against Harry Greb. The first fight was in 1926. He retained his title again later that year in 1926. He eventually lost his title to Mickey Walker and continued to fight. Now, here's where the fun begins. This was another one of these guys, and fun for Alex because he loves these horrific stories of how we lose these guys young. But this was another freak thing. I mean, back in the day, it wasn't a layup to go get your teeth fixed or have some minor surgery done to fix scar tissue because that's all Tiger Flowers thought he was doing when he went in at 32 years old, right after coming off of a fourth-round knockout over Leo Gates, which was getting him back into title contention. Ooh, tell us about that.
Yeah, I didn't even reread about his death. I forgot all about that. That he had the sudden death from it was the tooth, wasn't it?
No, it was scar tissue. It was
Okay.
scar tissue. The tooth was some other guys with the tooth, but the guy that always sticks out in my mind is Pancho Villa with the tooth. He goes in for an abscessed tooth and dies.
Oh, that's right.
But Tiger Flowers went in to clean up some scar tissue, similar to Harry Greb, actually. And it was after Harry Greb. He died 4 days after his fight with Leo Gates, which took place November 12th in 1927, and he died November 16th in 1927. He was only 32 years old. Now that might have been old in boxer terms, especially during that era. But this guy was in line he was making his way for another title shot.
Yeah, on the day of his death, he had won a court decision to order a rematch with Mickey Walker, and he left a wife and a 6-year-old daughter. Very sad, and it was one of those things where he was for the time, although he was another member of that sort of group of guys who were just avoided by white fighters, to a great degree, he was the anti-Jack Johnson. Jim Corbett, if he could be the sort of the measure of the two of them, he said some horrible things and hated Jack Johnson. About Tiger Flowers, Jim Corbett called him the swiftest and cleverest, brainiest middleweight in years, the perpetual motion in human form. He loved him. He did think that he, but I think that one of the things that's fascinating about it is that Flowers was a very religious man, and it's one of those examples of, that sometimes we see these things where guys, they get a touchdown and they thank Jesus, and sometimes it's a little much for you. But the fighting Deacon was somebody who certainly lived what he believed. And in the fight with Harry Greb, he actually later in talking to a crowd at in 1926, he actually was in an article talking about during that fight, Greb, I guess, in close, was saying like a lot of rude and nasty things to him and kind of snarling at him. And Flowers, this man of peace, even though he's throwing punches and, trying to survive in there, was reciting scripture. And he said he kept saying the 144th Psalm while Greb was snarling at him.
Sounds like Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
Because that's what he does. But anyway.
So, I mean, when you think about it, because sometimes people think about, Joe Louis, there was such a chasm between Jack Johnson and Joe Louis. There certainly was at heavyweight, but there was other black fighters that were certainly knocking down that color line, and Tiger Flowers was certainly one of them, because there were things that the white society, that even though to a great degree was extremely racist at the time, when they would read stories about that, they could relate to someone who was spiritual, and they could see, well, maybe these people are like me, and it would break down barriers, and that's one of the good things about sport.
Well, you had two very prominent black fighters of the same era that were regarded as anti-Jack Johnsons, and people say if these guys were the champion instead, maybe things wouldn't have gotten so hostile, and that was Joe Gans, of course, and then also Sam Langford. Both people loved them. Both colors loved them. But anyway, different times, different things, terrible things. But anyway, Tiger Flowers, he's our blast from the past. He's a boxing Hall of Famer, former world middleweight champion. He had a career record of 119 wins, 56 coming by knockout, 15 losses, like I mentioned, 10 were by stoppage. He had 7 draws. Those were his on-the-books record. He also had 17 newspaper decision wins, 2 losses. He had a total of 161 fights. He died at 32 years old, 1,268 rounds as a professional with a 35% KO ratio. Tiger Flowers, excellent job, Alex Pierpaoli. We got a couple of minutes here. One quick question. This weekend, first of all, I can't stand the fact that ESPN's Friday night fights are like when they want them. It just makes me sick that, hey, I'm watching Friday night fights. Yeah, but it's Saturday. Hey, yeah, well, this week it's on Saturday. Hey, let's watch Friday night fights. Oh, they don't have them this week. It's on, come on, right? But this week,
and when they do have them, they always, preempt it by about 45 minutes while something else, the Yama badminton riding llamas, takes precedence. They have to finish that game before boxing can come on.
Yeah, I know. And it's funny. I kid you not, in my local TV guide in the newspaper, on Friday they had a badminton tournament on television.
See that?
Badminton.
Was there a llama involved?
Murphy's laughing. He's saying NASCAR, college softball. Hey, I love college softball. So you're talking to the wrong person, Murph, there. Because I think that I would love to see a professional women's softball league that does well. I
think this season there's been softball, there's been girls basketball, there's been NASCAR. They all preempt it.
Yeah, well, the killer for me was when CBS picked they picked bull riding over a they picked bull riding over a boxing series. But my quick question to you now that I'm out of time is there is one decent fight on the slate this week. It's a pay-per-view, Brian Viloria against Omar Nino. What's your thoughts on that one real quick?
Oh, that's a pay-per-view. I'd like to get it. That should be a good fight. I like the little guys, and I think that there's definitely stuff that needs to be ironed out in that division. Now, wait a minute. Omar Nino has a win over Viloria, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't he?
I think they fought three times. They fought 3 times. This is a trilogy. This is the third one.
Yeah, okay, so, this should be good. Now, wait a minute, Viloria, haven't they fought at a different weight, though? Isn't this at a heavier weight class? Because I thought Yarrow, with his win over Wong Jong Kam now, put him opposite Viloria.
I know.
Or is he in the division below?
Sonny Boy Yarrow, the one that you wanted to be in pound for pound, that guy?
Yeah, that's right, my man. My man, Sonny Boy.
Yeah, this is...
Well, I think he deserves it because he whacked off that's the wrong thing to say.
Hey, listen, leave his personal life. Would you stop talking about him whacking off? Leave his personal life to himself.
Yeah, that's the wrong
you know what? Something, Alex, you know what? That's distasteful that you come on this show. This is a family show, man. You know what? Hey, look, I'm glad that it's time to get you off the line because, I don't know. You're bringing this whole conversation down the wrong path. I tell you, man. What happened to the Alex I used to know? I don't know, man. I don't know. But
well, I tell you, from now on, every time I come on the show, I'm going to have Justin Bieber dial the phone for me.
well, can't we have him carrying your belts and stuff? Hey, we should. I tell you, all kidding aside, I had a really lengthy conversation. Now I'm over my time, but I had a lengthy conversation with Marlon Starling, and yesterday, and all he could talk about, aside from the BillyCBoxing Hall of Fame, was Alex Pierpaoli. Oh God, I thought you guys are going to get an apartment together. I mean, he thinks you're the best.
I talked to him for a little. He must have called me later because I did talk to him for a little while.
I told him. I said, "Call."
He's looking forward to Canastota.
Yeah, he says. He says to me, "Oh, how's my man Alex doing?" I said, "Oh man," I said he's doing good. I said, "Give him a call. He'd love to hear from me." He says, "I think I will." And he called me for 2 reasons. One, he wanted to give me an attaboy about the BillyCBoxing Hall of Fame. He said he can't wait to come. As a matter of fact, I'm bringing him up here for something else in July, and he was real excited about that. And the other reason was, which I found interesting, was he wanted to make sure that we were all going to the International Boxing Hall of Fame. And he said, I want to make sure you guys were coming up because I'm going to start promoting that you guys are going to be there, which I thought was pretty cool, man. And that's when I said, give Alex a call, And so he says, his time is busy when he's up there, but he's definitely going to take some time for us. So I'm thinking he's leaning towards, if we decide to do one of our get-togethers, that he's leaning towards joining in our reindeer games.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Maybe pick a fight. Maybe pick one of his, right? One of his controversial fights, and we all score it with him in the room. Wow,
that'd be a good idea.
He'll kick our ass if we don't score it for him. Right? Alex, great job, man. I look forward to next time.
All right, Billy C, take care.
All right, that's Alex Pierpaoli doing what he does best. I got to take a break. When I come back, I'm scheduled to have the infamous, and I do mean infamous, Joe Santoliquito.
The 2012 Summer Olympic Games unfold in 5 months in London. The honor and the history of playing host goes back a long way. How long? That's next on Sports Shorts with me, the Sports Princess.
This Your Family Today tip is brought to you by Stouffer's, helping bring your family together with wholesome dinner options, even on the busiest of nights. Find dinner table ideas to bring your family together at letsfixdinner.com. To get kids involved in dinnertime conversation, ask specific questions, not broad ones. Instead of what happened today at school, try what was the best thing that happened today. The more specific you are, the more they'll have to say. For more tips like these, visit us at parenthood.com/yourfamilytoday.
Legend has it that the Olympics go back to Hercules, but let's leave Greek mythology out of it. The modern games opened in 1896. Since Athens couldn't afford to put them on, a businessman ponied up the coin. pole vaulting, weightlifting, shot put, and swimming, few of the handful of events. Since those days, some of the original sports remain. Others come and go, depending on the whims of the International Olympic Committee. Australia, France, Germany, and China have hosted summer games, and this will be the third time for London. As for the Winter Games, the U.S. has hosted them 4 times since they started in 1924 in France, featuring sports like alpine cross-country skiing, figure skating, and such. Between the summer and the Winter Games, there are hundreds of sports and thousands of athletes. You never know what city is going to get a crack at hosting next. I'm the Sports Princess with Sports Shorts.
Talking Boxing with Billy C. Every week, 2 hours of the best boxing talk on the radio.
Mike Tyson looked like he put on some pounds. He was fat. He went into McDonald's and he just said to them, hey, give me 6 of everything on the menu. He put on 2 watches and covered 2 time zones. I'm talking fat here. Got on a scale the other day and it said, come on, one of you guys got to get off. Last thing I heard is that he jumped into the ocean and he left a ring around the continent. He's fat.
Boxing with Billy C.
Now back to Talking Boxing with Billy C. He may not have an Excellence in Broadcasting award, but the night's still young. And he's got martinis. So you never know what may be by morning. It's Talking Boxing with Billy C. Talking Boxing with Billy C.
The one, the only, Don King.
Makes me feel good, Billy, to have you, the number 1 show in the country, Talking Boxing with Billy. So I invite each and every American that's listening to this great show to tune in, because we want you to be there with Billy and me.
St. Jimmy's coming down across the alleyway, up on the boulevard like a zip gun on parade. Lights on the silhouette, he's just a button edge, coming at you on the count of 1.
And we're back. You are listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C. radio show. You're watching us on the Fight Now television channel. If you don't have Fight Now on your sports channel lineup, you need to call your local television provider and tell them that you want it right now, especially everybody with AT&T Uverse. In case you don't know it, you can get it. All you can do is call them. That's it. Pick up the phone, call them, tell them that you want it right now. Speaking about now, joining us is the infamous Joe Santoliquito. What's up, my man?
Hey, Bill. How you doing?
Hey, doing pretty good. Well, what do you think? I before you get started, I think Cotto deserves all kinds of credit, and I think Mayweather deserves equal amount for, number 1, fighting Cotto, and number 2, putting on a performance that he did. It was actually entertaining, and I liked the fight. What do you think?
I agree with everything you said. I feel the same way. I had it 8-4. Cotto started coming on. I believe I gave Cotto 3 straight middle rounds, and I think I gave Cotto a late round. But it was entertaining. You saw a lot of. I was doing a blog that, well, got far more attention than I thought it would get. It started to grow, and it was a healthy dose of 6 figures after I was done, and a lot of people thought the same way as I did, and how this whole thing turned out, because you saw a bloodied Floyd Mayweather, you saw a slightly swelled Floyd Mayweather. Cotto did make it competitive there for a time, and I think I prior to this fight, I thought Floyd's most difficult fight was against Oscar De La Hoya. And I had that 4-4 after 8, and then Floyd just put his foot on the gas and took it home. This one was, I think I had Floyd winning the first 5 rounds, and then Cotto winning 6, 7, and 8, Floyd winning 9, Cotto winning 10, making it, I think it was 6-4. I had 6-4 after 10, and then Floyd coming on to win the 11th and 12th. But Cotto acquitted himself exceptionally well. It was a competitive fight. Floyd, this is probably the worst I've seen Floyd look after a fight. So, it opens the door to a few things. Floyd fought him. He showed some different sides to himself that, again, like we haven't seen before. and I liked how everything worked out in the end, how professional and gracious he was towards Larry Merchant, and it was a really good night for Mayweather and for Cotto, and it was a really good night for boxing.
I scored it 116-112. I gave Cotto round 3, 6, 8, and 10. But that was my score. That's that's as close as I thought he got. I thought it was entertaining. I honestly believe right now, Joe, there's one fight left for my man, not my man, but Mayweather, and that's against Manny Pacquiao. People talking about Sergio Martinez. We just had Alex on. I really think that if Floyd doesn't fight Manny Pacquiao at this point, he could conceivably hang him up, and he's got nothing else left to prove. There's no one in the sport right now in the welterweight or junior middleweight division that I think would be competitive with Floyd. I mean, maybe it's time for him to walk away on top. I think that, we would have to remember his last 3 fights, which were all great performances.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he's this generation's signature fighter. I believe that he doesn't have anything to prove. He doesn't need Pacquiao. And in fairness, Pacquiao don't need Mayweather either at this stage in their career. And I keep on bringing this up because, again, I sat down with Ken Hirschman about 5-6 months ago now, when Hirschman just took over at HBO, and I won't forget what he said, and he referenced it as the sell-by date, and he said it was around this time next year if it's not made. We don't see those two guys in the ring by January or February of next year. That it would have reached the point where, like, who cares? I know Aram, I think, came out recently with something that, Manny will agree to this, that, and the other thing. I firmly believe that Aram's holding this whole thing up. I know it's not Manny.
Well, it could be
Manny,
Floyd.
Manny, like I said, Manny would fight Godzilla. Manny would fight the freaking New York Jets. You put them all in a room together. And I got news for you. Manny would get his ass kicked, but guess what? There'd be a few guys that would come out with some scrapes too. So it's not Manny. And I don't really believe, even though Floyd's kind of made things a little bit difficult with some of the demands, some of the payday demands, what the actual purse split would be, and he's made some things tough to accept on the Pacquiao side. But still, if Pacquiao's got to get $40-45 million guaranteed, that's saying quite a bit, and I think it would be, without a doubt, would be Pacquiao's largest payday. And I'm even assuming, I think this fight this past weekend did very well, and it says quite a bit more about Floyd and where he is and his status in the boxing world, because I think he got 1.7, 1.8, possibly even $2 million for this fight. Because I know in Philadelphia they were talking it up a little bit. It was a point of discussion in some sports circles, as opposed to the crap that was there a couple weeks ago with Philadelphia's own Bernard Hopkins fighting in Atlantic City when no one spoke about that at all. So this fight carried some weight, and I found out the weight when I started to do this live blog, and actually I think I posted it on your Facebook page, and what it really turned into. I think it got 180,000 hits, something like that. It just was growing. I'm just doing it, and it was the first time I really kind of did it, and it's 5,000. Then all of a sudden, I'm checking back up on it, and then I look up, it's 10,000, and then before you know it, it's 20, and then I look up, and it's 50, and it says something. And I bring it up because it says something about the interest in that fight and the growing number of people that were interested in that fight. Now, I think they also were going up against an MMA event that I don't think held any kind of real significant weight to Mayweather and Cotto. But it still kind of proves that where boxing is And I know the popularity of MMA and all this other business, but MMA is not drawing. I think the biggest MMA pay-per-view ever may have gotten 1 million, 1.4, 1.3 million, something around there. It's never really generated the kind of buys now that, and the buying power of someone like Mayweather. He's really in a he's really in on a level of his own. I believe, my opinion, he should think about, a fairly competitive tune-up fight after he gets out of the can. And I would not mind seeing him fight Sergio Martinez. To me, that's the goal fight. To me, that's the fight that'll really. I mean, his legacy's already signed, sealed, delivered. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but it would throw more cement on to Floyd's considerable stature right now and what his status is in boxing. And I know Floyd has an appreciation for history, and he would share a belt with. He likes to bring him up pretty often. Sugar Ray Robinson. It would put. He would be in that. I'm not saying he's Sugar Ray Robinson, but I'm certainly saying he'd be in that category, in that argument. If he turns around and if he stepped up and beat Sergio Martinez, who's a fairly smallish middleweight to begin with, so that would be interesting to me. There's some intrigue in that fight. Otherwise, I agree with everything you said, Bill. I don't think there's any intrigue in any fight. As a matter of fact, I'll be honest with you, and I keep on maintaining it. I don't think there's any intrigue in a Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. I think Mayweather chews him up.
Well, I don't know if we could. There's nothing Floyd can do to be mentioned in the same breath as Sugar Ray Robinson. I mean, it's just a different era and everything else. I mean, let's just say that. But two more questions. I got to run.
But he is an all-time great.
Well,
Floyd's going to go down.
Yeah, where's he going to fit in? Don't even get me started on that. Yeah, I admit he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he will be considered as an all-time great. But there's just so many better fighters than him. I don't have him in the top 10. I maybe have him in the top 25. But anyway, that's another story. Two quick questions. I got to run already. Number one is Saul Alvarez fought Sugar Shane Mosley. I hope it's it for Sugar Shane. I mean, he was in there. You could say all kinds of positive things about Alvarez. Not much positive about Mosley. What's your quick thoughts on that?
Again, it's just the same thing. I remember some people getting on me during the course of the live blog I was doing. How can you see this as so one-sided? Well, because it was. It's a shame because Shane is so beloved, so well-liked, is respected, as he should be, for all the good things he's done. For the $650,000, he got his ass kicked. He got pounded, and it was hard to see. It was hard to swallow. Geez, I mean, there was a number of different other options that they could have used that were at least going to give Alvarez a decent fight, and that's all I was hoping to see. I knew it was going to happen, Bill. You knew it was going to happen. It shouldn't have happened. Regrettably, it did. I think I had 11-1, and the scorecards all indicated that. I don't know anybody that gave Mosley more than one round, and I think that round was somewhat debatable. But it was difficult to see. I've met Shane. I've been with Shane. He is a class act. I don't care, regardless of what people want to turn around and say and think, and what they say publicly in the media. The media is biased, and you can't help but and you can't help but be biased towards someone like a Shane Mosley, who's been nothing but a class act. I know he had this little thing with the clear and the Balco situation and everything else like that, but this guy overall, his general overall body of work has been tremendous, and I think that's why you heard the HBO announcers speak so adoringly of him during the course of the fight. I thought, but didn't you hear it's almost like emotional cracks coming into Jim Lampley's blow by blow of the fight. That it was difficult for him to see what was unfolding here, and I agree with. And I think it was tough. It was difficult. I wasn't on the brink of being emotional over it. If anything, I got a little bit angry over it because the undercard was not it didn't really blow me away, even though I'll say this. The DeAndre Lattimore fight, and who's the guy that upset him again, who hadn't fought in like 15 months or something like that, and came in and basically whooped him. I thought that was interesting. That was fun to watch. You know, those kinds of upsets make it worthwhile.
Well, that's what you get when you
overall,
that's what you get when you put a fighter
really
in with
show.
young when you put a fighter in that you're building up his record, and you put him in with all these weak opponents, and then you finally put him in, be as it may, a guy that's been out of the ring for 15 months, a guy that's had his career, been a champion, you know, on his way out, all those accolades or stereotypes. You know, this is what happens when you protect your guy. You know, you get him in there and he becomes overmatched, just like Quintana showed. Hey, one last question. I got to run, Joe. There's a big fight this weekend that not many people know about. It's Brian Valoria against Omar Nino Romero. It's the third time these three guys are. It's the third time these two guys are going to be going at it. Any thoughts on that fight?
Yeah, I think. Well, Valoria, I think, won the last one.
There's 3 fights. Valoria won. He won. They each won one. This is a trilogy. They each won one. So this is the third one, and I don't even have all it.
I think I saw a YouTube clip of the second fight. It's anything that Brian Valoria is in is fun. It's got to be a battle. They're neat little guys that are going to go at it. I mean, the guy that I think is a burgeoning little guy that I think it's a shame. I know the hardcores know him. You know him as Roman Gonzalez. You know, I really am thrilled by all the good things he's doing, and it's a shame that they don't have any of the little guy fights on HBO or Showbox or anything like that. This is not going to be on. This is not going to be a Showbox fight, is it? It's not.
No,
as a matter of fact, I got a feeling
this is on.
It's a pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's on pay-per-view. Brian Valoria lost the first fight to Romero, Nino, whoever you want to call him, and the second fight ended in a draw because it was that's the way that one ended. So Valoria hasn't really beaten him yet. So this will be the way. I thought they each won.
This time around, and I'm sure this is going to be filled with a lot of blood and guts. And 2 guys that are nonstop punchers that are just going to go at it in the middle of the ring. And, we'll see. The shame of it is what happens in these fights, especially with the little guys. They take so much out of each other that, after a fight like that, you're just dealing with scraps. So, and one last thing there, your Mets have really taken it to my Phillies down here, and I am loving it.
I'm loving it, too.
These people, these jackasses down here still think it's 2008. And they're still the World Series champions. Guess what, guys? They've gone down in descending order each year after they've won the World Series.
Well,
Phillies lose the World Series to the Yankees in 2009.
Well,
lose the NLCS to the Giants, and then get knocked out in the divisional round last year to the Cardinals. So this year, they may not even make the playoffs.
Well, you know what? It's a long season, and I am on needles and pins with the or pins and needles, you should say, with the Mets. But Joe, appreciate you coming on. Until next week, my man. We'll talk to you then.
Okay, Bill.
All right,
Thanks.
take care. That's
Bye-bye.
the infamous Joe Santoliquito giving us his thoughts on Mayweather, and he wants to see. He's like Alex. He wants to see Sergio Martinez fight Mayweather, and does not think that Pacquiao has a chance against him. Hey, let's talk about the Island Assault number 4. First fight was a loss. Second fight was a draw, and now they're going to fight for the third time. It is for the WBO Flyweight Championship. You can catch it on pay-per-view this weekend. And I got a question from one of our listeners, the other Alex. Alex T says, is this a watch or a don't watch? And, of course, it's a pay-per-view. Here's the deal, man. It's a watch. I'm giving it a buy. Go buy this pay-per-view. It's worth it. Integrated Sports Media has it. They're selling it for $29.95, which is the suggested price on it. I think it's a worthwhile fight. I, for one, am buying it. So I give Alex T. And anybody else that's interested in buying this one, it's worth the money. It's a decent card. And as far as the undercard goes, it's not too bad either. Robert Udantehan is 17-1. He's taking on Alvin Mackling. Now, I honestly don't know much about either one of those two guys. However, in another fight that was on here, wait a minute. Oh yeah. Wait a second. I thought that maybe you know what? Maybe the undercard isn't that good. Honestly. Oh no. Yeah. Maybe the undercard isn't that good. I thought that there was another name on this card that I saw, but I'm seeing now that. Well, I still think that the main event is worth the $30. Anyway, Lamont Peterson. Here's the deal. Bottom line. Alex and I talked about it a little bit. He did admit taking pellets, a testosterone. Why can't I say that friggin' word? Pellets. Now he was under the care of a doctor, and he said that he put these pellets under his armpit. That's how they got absorbed into his body. They are looking into it. He did test. He had sample A and B. The sample A tested positive. They said, go ahead, test sample B. That tested positive. And like I mentioned to Alex, they did take another test 3 days later, and that came up negative. Do not know what's going to be going on with this fight. And, of course, I'm referring to the Lamont Peterson and Amir Khan rematch. The bottom line is this. There is two titles on the line here, the IFBA and the IBF and the WBA. And both of these titles belong to Lamont Peterson. Now, rumor has it that Peterson will be stripped of these titles. And my point is this. If he's stripped of the titles and they become vacant for his admitted use of a banned substance, then if the fight goes on, both fighters should still have the opportunity to fight for the title, in my opinion. If he is stripped of the title and not allowed to fight, if the fight is not put on, then I believe that Amir Khan has to fight the next available number one guy. And I'm saying next available. Next available number one of either of those two sanctioning bodies. I will be sick and criticize Amir Khan to the hilt if he gets handed some layup to fight for these titles. Now, with that said, I totally am against Lamont Peterson for cheating, and if something doesn't come to light, which I'm finding very hard to believe anything that they say is going to change my opinion, but if something doesn't come to light, I'm kind of really sitting back and waiting to see what Amir Khan says, because he's been really cool. He's been a crybaby of this whole situation, and now he's been silent, and silence speaks volumes. And I can only remember one other guy that his silence had carried him it was so loud, and that's, of course, Miguel Cotto over the Margarito thing. So let's wait and see what happens with Amir Khan. As far as David Haye, Haye-Chisora, we broke that story right here yesterday before it was anywhere else, that fight was made. And as a matter of fact, I also told you that Dax Khan knew about that 3 weeks ago, and we were going to break it then, but we decided to hold off. But we got it. We announced it yesterday officially, July 14th. It is being sanctioned by the Luxembourg Boxing Commission, which is okay in England. We told you, a listener told us that. But here's something that changed between yesterday's show and right now, and that's the fact that the co-main event is going to be Alexander Povetkin against Hasim Rahman, which is pretty interesting. Another interesting thing, which you have to stick around for thumbs up, thumbs down, really, is the WBC's announcement for their meeting for their idea of the World Cup. This is just another sickening thing by the WBC. I am becoming so fed up with Jose Sulaiman. And am I the only one? Is the WBC, because I've taken this stance against the WBC and how ludicrous they've become, and how Jose Sulaiman mouths off and discredits everyone else except himself, and then he comes back with the same stuff that he discredits? Am I the only one that's seeing this? Am I the only one that sees that all of a sudden he's going to force? It was announced that his WBC title holder in the junior welterweight division was Eric Morales, and Danny Garcia beat Eric Morales, so Danny Garcia is the champ, right? Well, I didn't hear of an injury, but apparently Danny Garcia sustained an injury. So the WBC wants to put up either Lucas Matisse against Humberto Soto or Matisse against Asagun Jose to fight for the interim WBC belt. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but they don't even call their belt the interim belt, right? Isn't it supposed to be the silver belt? And whatever happened to the champion of recess BS that they pull? Isn't that what they just pulled with Andre Ward? I'm losing track, man. You got to follow the bouncing boxing glove with the WBC. It's ridiculous, and I for one just can't take it anymore. Let me know. Am I the only one? Is the WBC aggravating you as much as it's aggravating me?
Wake up. It's time for It's too early for a trivia question.
All right, well, today's It's Too Early for a Trivia Question. Question is being brought to us by Star Boxing and their May 18th event down at the Times Union Center in Albany, New York. If you want to get some tickets for that, visit our website, www.BillyCBoxing.com. Click one of the Star Boxing posters, or come on up to the Halftime Bar and Grill and put your name down because we're giving tickets away up on Route 9 in South Glens Falls. And speaking of giving stuff away, today's prize for this tough trivia question is Clay Moyle's latest book. It's the Billy Miskey story, the St. Paul Thunderbolt. And if you want to buy a copy, you can get a copy of it through our book club, www.BillyCBoxing.com. Check out the book club. It's in there. You can get a special price signed, the whole nine. But if you get this question right, you're going to get your own copy of it. And also on the line is this commemorative collector's phone card of heavyweight champion Rocky Marciano with his famous knockout of Jersey Joe Walcott. If you know this answer, when was the first time the details of the official scoring were announced by the ring announcer? When was the first bout in which the details of the official scoring were announced by the ring announcer? The big hint is that this fight took place between 1930 and 1950. Email me the correct answer if you know it. That's Billy at Talkin' Boxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. When was the first bout in which the details of the official scoring were announced by the ring announcer? Email me, Billy at TalkinBoxing.com. Good luck to everybody for these two great prizes.
This day in boxing history.
And finally, this day in boxing history is being brought to us by Campanaro and Tomkovich. If you're looking for a lawyer, use the ones that keep me out of trouble. That's Campanaro and Tomkovich, 845-221-4099. Let Campanaro and Tomkovich knock out your legal problem. Tell them Billy C sent you, 845-221-4099. On this day, May 9th, in 1908, Stanley Ketchel, one of, in my opinion, the greatest middleweights of all time. Stanley Ketchel, he knocks out Jack Twin Sullivan in the 20th round to win the vacant world middleweight title in Coloma, California. Interesting note, also the same year in 1908, Ketchel was stopped in the 12th round to Billy Papke in September of 1908, and then followed it up in November and knocked out Papke in the 11th round, all in the same year. Stanley Ketchel, one of the reasons why he's one of the top middleweights of all time, in my opinion. Hey, man, that concludes our show for today. Don't forget, we got thumbs up, thumbs down following this show right now, but first I have a message for you. Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning, same bat time, same bat channel. There's only one channel. That's the Fight Now channel. Call your local television provider right now. Tell them you want the Fight Now channel added to your sports channel lineup. It's that simple. For all the information about the channel, you can find it on their website, www.fightnow.com. See you all tomorrow. Ciao, baby.